Hi, I'm Tarinishah, and you're watching or listening to Tea with Tarini. I have tried to be so consistent with this podcast. The change in tone is absolutely crazy to me, but I have tried to be so consistent with this podcast, and I just suck at it. And that's why I came around to this topic of let your actions speak for you in personal life and professional life. Because my goddamn, every time I have said that I'm gonna be consistent with my podcast and I'm gonna put out an episode every other day, and I've been keep telling people that hey, I have a podcast. What podcast? What? The one that posts like once a month? Nah. No. And then I realized I just talk about it and yap about it so much. And, I just take views from everybody and what they think about it and never just actually freaking do it. And I realized that this is a topic that I want to talk about for the podcast so that, we have the podcast going and I get to talk about what's going on in my head because that's the point of this podcast, to be honest. Like, the reason why I started this was to navigate through my 20s, and my biggest problem right now is that I'm navigating it and I make a podcast after I've navigated it, so it takes a while to put out an episode. But I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna pick up things that I've already overcome and talk about them, or maybe talk about things I haven't overcome, so that we both can discuss and have a conversation about it. Anyway, coming to today's topic, I've come to the realization by talking to multiple people that I know who have excelled in their personal and professional lives. Talking and yapping about your work or your actions is never good enough. Like, it's never gonna give you or anybody in your life the satisfaction or the reliability that you are it. I know we like to talk about our work, and for me it has always been a way of seeking validation before I even do it. Like, I'll keep talking about certain things that I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then I don't end up doing half of it. And I know it's not always in my control, but most of the times it is. And I feel like, and I never thought that it's like a big thing, but I would love the praise I would get when I would talk about it, and then I wouldn't end up doing it. And then when somebody asked me, I was like, shit. And it's like over promising and very badly under delivering, even if it's not something that's related to them. And I just feel like for me, it had become such a big point of let me tell this person my idea, my thought, or what I'm going to do, and let me get that validation, what they think about it. And just when the person did not give me the right reaction, no matter who it was, I would get disappointed in myself. And that reaction would differ from people to people, right? Like, 5 people would be nice about it, and then one person would be like, eh. And I would be like, oh my god, my idea is so bad, and like, why am I doing this? Why am I executing? And then I never even end up executing. And if I've already executed, then I'm just like, nah, it's not enough. It's not enough. And that's what I realized, that instead of constantly talking about what I'm going to do in my personal life or my professional life and then not actually executing on it isn't the right thing to do, and it has zero impact in my life. It's always going to be the efforts that you're going to put out into making those things happen that you've promised or you've spoken about. Because unless you put your efforts and action into place, it's not going to matter, not to yourself or anybody that you've spoken to this about. And I think we are in the generation where, everyone is kind of talking about what they're doing. And sometimes it's great for you because putting the word out there is amazing about what you're going to do. It helps you connect with like-minded people who are doing the same things. But a lot of times, it's just freaking words. It never ends up turning into action. But the best part is that if it does turn into action and your efforts are put in, that's going to speak much, much, much louder to people than your words. It's going to be like the halo effect. People are going to always judge you based on your actions and your moves and your efforts rather than any words you say. They say that actions speak louder than words for a freaking reason. And this has happened to me so many times. Like, take this podcast for an example, right? I would always constantly talk about it, and I would be so proud of the 5 episodes that I've released. I would constantly say at every podcast that I'm going to be consistent. And I would go and, talk about this podcast to everyone about how proud I was. And I truly am proud of this podcast because I've seen it have an effect on not just me, because it's like a digital diary and I get to go back and learn about all my learnings and growth and self-reflection, but also the fact that it has helped a lot of people. And it turns out that I loved that. I loved the fact that, hey, this is making a change, this matters, but I would not really act on it consistently. And I would just talk about it everywhere. And people realize that, hey, she does this, but it's not something that's, constantly connected to her. And people didn't recognize me for this. And it came to a point where I realized that I'm just talking about this to prove to myself and to prove to everyone around me that, hey, I'm doing this thing where I'm navigating my life and I believe in self growth. And while I am doing it in my personal life, my entire point of Tea with Tarini was to help everyone or just provide some information that might help them, And I would talk about it constantly, but I would never actually do it. And I realized that makes me so unreliable, not only for myself, but even to you guys, because I'm promising something and I'm not being able to do it. And it's not like I can't do it, I'm just lazy about it. And everybody used to ask me that, hey, you promised us another episode, so where is it? And even in terms of work, like my manager's constantly like, hey, weren't you supposed to shoot an episode? And I was like, nah, I was bored. And I realized that reduced the amount of reliability that these close people who I work with had on me in terms of the podcast, because other work I would do. And then every time I would say that I'm going to shoot a podcast episode today, they'd just be like, we'll see. And then I never ended up doing it anyway. So I just didn't like the kind of impression it left on people about me. And that's when I realized that I needed to change it. I needed to do more and talk less and work in silence, to be honest, because the amount of validation that we seek from people today is crazy, because it's so easy to get this validation as well. So a lot of times, even unconsciously, you just end up doing things to get that validation. Once you have it, you're like, fine, I don't need to execute it because I already have the validation. But then it's not really helping you. You're doing it for the external validation, but you're not doing it for yourself. So why not turn the table around and do it for your validation rather than anyone else's? And if that validation comes along later on, and if it's in good faith, then great. That's great for you. That's an add-on. But why not seek your own validation first rather than seeking it from everybody else around you, or even just random people on the internet? Because right now, with the power of social media, it's very, very possible. And we all do it sometimes. And it's kind of like this thing that we like to indulge in, but probably not as healthy. Sometimes it's great for confidence. I would say that myself. But sometimes it's very unhealthy because it might lead to overconfidence. So finding the balance is the key always. And to be honest, what matters the most in this world is the results. I recently saw this documentary about BlackBerry and its rise and fall, like how we all went absolutely ham behind the BlackBerry and how suddenly it was all about the iPhone. And that's because the BlackBerry guys just used to constantly do this one thing that they would get maximum validation for, and they would just constantly keep repeating it. Not much innovation, because they already had all the people using their phones. They were the number one phone company at a point of time. And then Apple, during all these times, Steve Jobs constantly kept on working in silence and building something completely different. They never went out and, put this idea out there completely, or just spoke about, hey, we're going to innovate something absolutely crazy. He actually did it in silence. He innovated it over the years and just brought it out, and it changed the phone industry. Clearly, we all know that. And just the idea of working in silence and not letting anyone know your next move, and then bam, I think that is so powerful. Like just coming up and being like, I don't need to prove my worth. My work does it for me. I love that. I love that idea, and I really wanna keep on implementing that in my life, because soon enough you'll come to realize that the loudest one in the room is not always the smartest one. So here's what we can do. We can work on things and put in efforts and consistency and keep doing it every day, little by little, and telling ourselves, and have this like maybe reward system for yourself. Every time I record a podcast, I'm gonna have a dessert. And that's the motivation you need to create for yourself. You need to create a system that rewards yourself, and you are the one rewarding yourself. So it's not dependent on anybody, because sometimes in life it's not that great to be dependent on people, and especially when it comes to validation, because I can't repeat this enough, because I have been in that phase in my life where I was constantly dependent on other people's validation, and it's taken me so much time to get out of it, because in all honesty, I do end up putting myself in situations where I seek validation, whether it's from my friends, my family, my sisters, or people at work. And I think it's a process, and I think you learn eventually. So I've eliminated a lot of people, and I'm still working on validating myself and rewarding myself for things that I do, and not hoping that somebody else will, because you cannot control other people's reactions, but you can control your reactions. So I think a reward system for yourself myself is a number one start. Second is to build trust with people by doing and not telling. Do things, make things happen, and then tell people. Like, I'm recording this podcast right now, and then tomorrow I'm gonna tell my manager that, hey, I recorded the podcast, and she's gonna be like, seriously? And I'm gonna be like, I can show you, I did. And right now I need to do that because I have completely ruined their trust about my podcast. But I feel like this is so much important, even in personal life, when it comes to your friendships. When you talk about, hey, I'm always gonna be there, hey, you can call me anytime, then why are you not picking up that call when they're calling you at 3 a.m.? Then don't make promises that you cannot keep. Always make promises that you can keep. Under promise, over deliver. Most of the times that's the best way to go in life, whether it's with friendships or your professional life. Take your time to implement things that you've thought and then go out and talk about it to people. Even if it's a project that you really need to talk to other people about to make it happen, then work on the project completely. Make a document, make it happen in your head and make it happen on paper, and then go in and go out and get validated on that idea. But don't let your entire execution depend on that person's validation. Let that be something that you truly want to do, and don't let somebody else change your mind when it comes to that. So just live by your word and make your word so precious that once you give it, everyone trusts you for it. Like, I've realized that I want to be at a point in my life where my work introduces myself. Like, I don't need to introduce myself when I walk into the room. They already know because I worked hard for them to know. And to be honest, with every little step I'm taking today, I'm working really hard towards what I want to do. Sometimes I'm lazy, because we are just being honest here. Sometimes I just want to rot in my bed. But the other days, I really push myself every morning to go work out, because that is something I really want to do. To script, to edit, do things by myself, because that reminds me of hard work, because that is what hard work means to me, and that is what satisfies me. That at the end of the day, I can say, hey, I did my job and I did it damn well. And tomorrow when people are going to know me, they're going to know me because I do, not because I tell. And I think that makes me feel so powerful and so confident in a room. I feel in personal life, this also attracts similar kind of people. You do not want somebody who will give you their word or say that they're always going to be there and then not have them in your life. And when you are this kind of person who is going to put their energy, who's going to put their effort, who's going to be consistent with their friendships or with their work, other people like that, who are also the same, who are the kind of people you also want in your life, are going to be attracted to that energy, because you don't want to just fill somebody's empty vessel. You want to pour into each other's cup. When you become this kind of person who just stops explaining things and you just become this person that you've always wanted to be, I think that attracts that same kind of energy. And then you are surrounded by people who would literally do anything for you. And that's the kind of energy you want to be surrounded by, because you would do anything for them. And those are truly the best kind of friends. I've been very lucky enough to find these 5 friends who I would do anything for, and they would do anything for me. And that itself is so satisfactory, because the rest of the world then doesn't matter, because you have the right people surrounded by you, because you put out the right energy into the world. And truly, trust in friendships and relationships are just built by doing things. Just think about that friend in your life who you trust with your whole heart. It's because every time they've said that they do something, they've done it. It's never been a moment where they have to explain themselves or just they talk about it and you're like, nah, he's never gonna do it. While you might have friends like that, there are people in the world that you would trust with your whole heart, and all of these people have the same quality, that they prove everything that they say by their actions. They will always under-promise and over-deliver, no matter what it is, whether it's friendship or their work life. And these are the kind of people you need to learn from. And these are the kind of people you should aim to be. I also believe that this kind of mentality leads to the law of attraction. Because when you are truly focused on doing something, your entire focus is on making that thing happen. When you're talking about it, I feel you go into this hazy direction sometimes, because you're talking about it, you're coming up with this crazy ideas, and you're talking and then people giving their input, and it's just kind of like you're chasing multiple things and you can't attract what you truly wanted. And sometimes the idea gets so messy that you don't know what you started for. And that sometimes truly happens to me, because there are like so many people telling me who I should be, and then I keep forgetting who I want to be. And that's when this podcast helps, because I go back and I listen to myself, and then I get reminded that this is who I wanted to be and this is who I am. And I feel that whenever you are focusing all your energy on being the person you want to be, rather than convincing people that you are this person, everything that you've always wanted just comes flowing to you, because you are literally focusing on just that. Everything else doesn't matter, just what you want want to be and just who you are. So here are a few closing things to keep your mind on. Be so good that they can't ignore you. Don't give them a space to ignore you. Don't chase their attention, but just know that if you're working hard and if you're working on yourself, the right people just won't be able to ignore you, because you are the kind of person that they're looking for in your life or work life, wherever you are. If you are constantly working on becoming a certain kind of your higher self, then everyone who belongs to be there with you is going to come running, and they'll never be able to ignore you because you are the kind of person they want to be around. Next is consistency over clout. I think it is proven in theory at this point that if you are consistent enough on chasing who you want to be and chasing what you want to do, then things are going to work out for you. You're going to have these small wins that are going to become bigger wins, and it's going to take time. So patience, consistent patience is also something that's an add-on to this. Your 5-year older self is going to thank you for practicing consistency today. Focus on progress and not proving a point. I think this one's very important. This one's something like I've written down literally on a post-it and stuck behind my work desk, because a lot of times we do things to prove a point, and then when nobody cares about it because everyone's so self-involved, it hurts you a lot. So I think focusing on progress and focusing on things that are going to make you happy and things that are going to work for your higher self will make you feel so content in yourself and with yourself that everything else will just not matter. It won't be about proving a point to others. It will be about making yourself happier and doing all these things for you that you are going to be so grateful and thankful that you did this. Lastly, and the most difficult one is going to be detached from external validation. I'm still working on it, and I'm going to be very honest about it. Sometimes I feel like the numbers get to me, and sometimes I feel like the words and the comments of other people get to me. And my life is very public, but even when it wasn't, it mattered. What my relatives said, what my parents said, what my sister said. And sometimes you won't be able to change it. The validation from your closest people will be there. And to be honest, that is okay. It's about how you take that validation. Do you take it as feedback if it really matters to you? And to be honest, I feel like you should always take validation from a person you want to be, or from a person who matters to you, or a person you respect. I feel you should never take validation or feedback very seriously or very critically from people who you don't respect, or who you never want to be, or whose values don't match to yours, because then it's a null, right? It's a cow's opinion, it's a moo. But if it is from a person you aspire to be, and I feel like it's kind of validation that I would love. Like if Emma Chamberlain comes and tells me that this podcast is the best thing she's ever heard, I'm gonna cry. And I'm going to be on the ground, and then nobody can ever tell me to stop this podcast in my life. So I feel like that is a very gray area. You can't just wake up tomorrow and be like, I don't care about this world, because we do care. It's human nature to care what people say, and that is okay. Always find the balance. Don't be too happy, don't be too sad. Learn from both the ends and come to the middle and be satisfied. And the validation you should look for the most is yourself, or your 5-year older self. So yeah, that's it for this topic. And I feel like I just keep getting more personal and personal with this podcast, but that is something I love, and that is what this is about. And I also feel like I need you to know that I'm not a perfect person. The entire point of Tea with Tarini is to navigate your life through your 20s, which means I'm still navigating it because I'm 22, and there's so much more for me to learn. But these are just little things that every day I realize, and I constantly try to practice them. Sometimes I fail, sometimes I win, but that's the point of figuring out life. You will never always win, and you wouldn't be able to celebrate the win without the losses. So I feel it's a continuous process of learning and growing to become the person I want to be. And there's a long road ahead, because there's a long life ahead. So yeah, don't ever think that I'm this perfect person sitting here and preaching something, but think of me as your best friend who's just having a chat with you about what she's feeling in her life. So yeah, that's it for the podcast. And now we do our favorite segment, what made you happy this week? And this week, the fact that I'm shooting this podcast made me happy. Haha. And also the fact that I am back home. I've been traveling for the past 4 weeks. Like every weekend I would be somewhere, either for work or with my friends or something, traveling and not at home. So I've been at home for like 4 days now, and it feels so good because I'm back to my routines, and nothing makes me happier than being in my routines, like waking up at a certain time every day, eating mama's food. Like nothing makes me happier than that. So I'm back to being happy with my routines. So yeah, that's it for the podcast. I really, really hope you liked it. If there are any personal stories or any topics that you'd like me to share or talk about, please put them in the comments below, or you can email them to me or DM them to me. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this podcast, and I'll see you right here very, very soon. Bye bye.